lot to talk about. We'll be right back. Stay with us on the Skiff with Ed Vidal. Ed, thank you for coming on short notice. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. No problem. Always happy to appear on your program.
So it's, the news cycle drives who we have the next day. So it's always a scramble to get the right people on. And I thought of you immediately. Let's start with the Venezuelan oil quarantine blockade. Secretary Hegseth calls it. That has specific meaning. What do you think about this? I mean, they're taking the tankers that are approaching Venezuela and controlling the oil flow. Give us your sense.
Well, these tankers are part of a shadow fleet, and so they have a dubious legal standing. They keep changing flags. Some of them are trying to take the Russian flag, thinking that will protect them, but it doesn't. But I think this is all part of the restoration of the Monroe Doctrine that Trump has followed. The takedown of Maduro was consistent with the precedent of what we did with Noriega, and it was expertly done. And we have to control the our backyard, what the Russians call the near abroad. Some people are saying that U.S. wants to be a Western Hemisphere superpower. No, it starts here. Why were we in Vietnam? Why were we in Afghanistan, Iraq, Ukraine? No, we need to take care of ourselves first, and we cannot allow countries next to us to become platforms for illegal trafficking of people and drugs and guns into our country. So this is all part of it. Venezuela is part of the American hemisphere, and they can't. It's been taken over by a narco-communist state 27 years ago during the Clinton administration, and it was allowed to happen. It's metastasized now. Venezuela had a population of 32 million at the beginning of the century. They've lost 8 million people have left because they couldn't live there. 40,000 of them are in Doral, Florida.
So on that subject, Venezuela, for instance, I read an interesting article yesterday that said the generation that's there now, it's going to be really challenging to get them to want to actually work.
Right.
And so maybe because they've been on the dole for 30 years.
It's the same thing in Cuba. All the people who had any kind of initiative and work ethic left. And that's happened in Venezuela. So it's going to be hard. Venezuela was pumping in the 70s. They were up at almost 5 million barrels a day. In the late 90s, they were up around 4. Today, they're under 1 million barrels a day. So it's going to take a lot of work to get it back where it's going. But at least the first step is not let it go to all these rogue regimes, whether it's China or Iran or Russia or wherever. Just keep it there and let's work on it. Then the question is, how do we exploit, for everyone's benefit, the oil that's there? And, Chevron, for example, has been able to hang in there. They were mostly nationalized by the Chavez Maduro regime. But on the other hand, Exxon had to leave completely. And the president of Exxon said something that has annoyed President Trump, but he's got a point, and that is Venezuela is uninvestable. That's what he said. Trump is very upset about that, but he's got a point. We have to go in and restore the rule of law in Venezuela, and that means American, I don't want to say boots on the ground, but American supervision at least. And what's happening here is that this interim government is being allowed to continue because the CIA and everyone else in the government did not want the chaos that happened in Iraq when Saddam fell. So, there's a lot of work to be done. The vice president is a bad person. Her brother is the president of the legislature. There are a couple of really bad guys, the minister of defense, the minister of the interior, and we have to work at getting them out of there. And the first step is just making sure they don't get any more money from oil being sold through this shadow tankers.
Well, I think there's an overarching layer to this, is that I think Venezuela and Ukraine, for that matter, were kind of the safe houses for organized crime.
Yeah,
they could do anything they wanted. So shutting that down, really, hopefully, I mean, you have to change the incentive structure, right, in the country, and that maybe is what's going on.
Well, communism is a form of organized crime. So.
It is. Completely agree. What about the other Latin countries? I have some Colombian friends. And
I would say Colombia is probably not going to be hit because there's going to be an election in May, and there are good candidates, conservative candidates. Colombia has been a fairly conservative country. Petro was a kind of an outlier. The prior conservative, semi-conservative president just didn't govern properly, and Petro got in. But I think it's like uh, uh, Fed Chairman Powell. Why pick a fight with him now? He's got to be out in May. Petro will be out in May, so I think Colombia will be fine. I don't think we'll have any problem there. I think Cuba, the communism doesn't work at any level, especially economics. And Cuba has always needed a sponsor, a sugar daddy to keep them going. And during the Cold War, it was the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc. I had cousins who studied in Berlin, and there were a lot of Czech products and things. So they lost that in the 90s. And that was a time for the Clinton administration to have knocked them out, but they didn't. And so Cuba was allowed to, in effect, conquer Venezuela. But they took over through Chavez. Chavez became their sugar daddy from 1999 and continued with Maduro. So now their sugar daddy is gone. They're not going to get any more free oil from Venezuela or any other goods. Mexico, by the way, has stepped in, has sent like 3 or 4 tankers
to Cuba
to help them out. So I think the Cuban government will probably just fall of its own accord. It's all being worked out. It's like in Venezuela, you have to work out, where do you send these people?
Yeah,
I mean, you want to go shoot them, but then you have to shoot all their henchmen.
Yeah.
So that's being worked out now. I would say there are lots of countries that are behind the United States, led by Argentina and El Salvador, of course. But Chile just had elections, elected a conservative. Bolivia, there are plenty. Honduras just did that. So I think those other countries are fine. The country that I think is a big problem is Mexico. They have a communist president who is controlled by the cartels, and I think that we are going to have to invade on ground attacks, armored columns to attack the cartels. And I said this at a conference in France last year, and the Mexican lawyers there agreed with me. And they said that's what it's going to take, and that's where we're headed, because the president is a complete commie. She has said that attacking the cartels is outside the rule of law and fascist. So, that's how communists talk. You attack them, you're a fascist. The other country that I think has made a mistake is Canada. They're trying to cuddle up to China.
Yeah, I think Carney is going over there this week to chat with Xi.
Yeah, they are definitely going the wrong way. They're going to have a problem with Calgary, because Calgary wants more independence. They realize they have to get their oil to the Pacific, but they have a problem with British Columbia and the federal authorities, so they want to take it down to the U.S. and then go to the Pacific.
Yeah.
So Canada's going to be a problem. And then Greenland, they're nuts, and so is Denmark and NATO. None of those countries can defend their own national territories without the United States. So they have no standing to complain. Denmark has not been.
They're not even in reality, Ed. I mean, they're not in reality about Ukraine, about this, about and I still think they're not working for the people of Europe. They're working for something else, and that is the power structure that's trying to prevent this, because they know it's important.
Right, the European Union power structure, the globalists that are running that started the Ukrainian war, because I think Russia was provoked into attacking.
Yes.
So absolutely. So Greenland needs to straighten out. I'd hate to see us using military, but certainly other means are good. The other country, and I read in the Miami Independent, see why it's so important to read the Miami Independent. There was a guy named, last name is Borden, which is a pen name. And he says Brazil is the key. Brazil is not the key. Brazil has fallen under a judicial tyranny, and the last presidential election was rigged. And now they have Lula, they have Bolsonaro in prison, and he's having surgeries, and he's not even getting time off. New presidential elections are due in October, and we'll see what happens then. But they say that Brazil is the country of the future and always will be. I don't think you can really count on them to lead liberty and prosperity the way Argentina has, the way Chile is starting to. I'm not very optimistic about Brazil, and then Mexico. I think we're going to have to invade. I wrote an article a year and a half ago after visiting Mexico, saying that we need to create a new buffer state between the United States and Mexico, the Republic of North Mexico, made up of all the Mexican states that had joined the U.S., capital in Monterrey, Mexico, and just have that as a buffer.
Get all those factories in there too.
Well, that's the problem. There haven't been as many factories because of the lawlessness. I know people. I know Nabisco moved their Oreo factory from Chicago to Monterrey. They were very happy with the labor in Monterrey. People were reliable, showing up on time, and all that. But then they got hit with a tax from the Secretary of the Treasury, and they went to their local lawyers, and nobody could find the tax. They went to talk to the secretary. They just wanted the money. That was it. You can't argue with them. There's no rule of law. So that's why when you talk about nearshoring, there hasn't been as much nearshoring in northern Mexico because of the lack of rule of law. If we create a new republic there, and they will, create more rule of law, I think you'll see a lot. And one thing that's related to that is before the government, the PAN government in Mexico, before AMLO, Lopez Obrador took over as president, there had been an opening of the energy industry in Mexico, and there were a lot of plants that were built in the north. But each of these plants, almost all of them, had their own electric power generation plant attached to them. So they were not hooked up to the grid. And I think that's what we have to do in the United States with respect to the data centers. The data centers we need them, we need to approve them, but each data center should be required to have its own independent power source that is not taxing the local grid. And by the way, the local grid is having its prices go up because of bad, woke, progressive green policies over the last 10 or 12 years, even in conservative states like Florida. The people that have been appointed to the Public Service Commission have approved all these solar projects, and that's why the prices are going up. The solar can't do it. Same thing with windmills. And it's worse in places like Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York. In New York, Governor Cuomo shut down Indian Point nuclear plant that provided 25% of the electricity for New York City and Westchester County. And so, why is New York not affordable? It's because of policies like that.
Really good insight. That's the whole data center thing. I mentioned that in the mission brief. That's a biggie, and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
And we've had some good articles on that in the Miami Independent. So
yes, we have, and that is becoming a very impactful one of our flagship papers. Read in the right places. Let's just put it that way. MiamiIndependent.com.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
So let's talk Florida on that subject. There's a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, Ed, on the Florida governor's race. What say you?
This is good. I wrote this back last year. There are now the establishment is divided. And that is great for grassroots conservatives because we can go to both candidates. Now, Byron Donalds has been campaigning since the beginning of last year. He's been endorsed by President Trump, which really means endorsed by his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, who's a local Florida operator. Yeah. And he's got the support of all the establishment, all the RPOF, the Republican executive committees. And I knew this was coming. Governor DeSantis has appointed 4 of the statewide offices in the last year. He appointed Ashley Moody, the prior attorney general. He made her U.S. senator. He's supporting her for re-election, of course. He appointed James Utmeyer, his chief of staff, as attorney general, replacing Moody. He appointed Blaise Ingoglia as the new CFO of the state, replacing Jimmy Patronis, who got elected to Congress after Matt Gaetz left. And he also then appointed his lieutenant governor last year. The former lieutenant governor went to be president of Florida International University, so he appointed State Senator Jay Collins as lieutenant governor. I've been predicting since summer of last year that Collins was going to run for governor. And he should have announced earlier, I think, but he finally announced it this week that he is running. And so that sets up a race between the Byron Donalds appointment, supported by everybody just about, and then what I call the DeSantis slate. The DeSantis slate led by Lieutenant Governor Collins, who's running for governor, Ashley Moody running for re-election as U.S. Senator, James Utmeyer for Attorney General, and Blaise Ingoglia. And that will be great because it allows grassroots conservatives to step in and pit them against each other and say, what will you do for election integrity? And if you don't, then maybe we'll vote for the other guy. There are 2 other people in the gubernatorial race. Former Speaker Paul Renner. He was put in by Susie Wiles to draw Anglo votes away from Jay Collins because she knew Jay Collins was coming.
Yeah.
The problem with Byron Donalds, he talks a great game on Fox Business, but he has some really negative associations, including going back to Trayvon Martin. And we have the receipts to prove it. He was there at a Trayvon Martin vigil. He was very concerned about George Floyd.
The campaign didn't like that at all.
But we had the receipts.
I know. I remember that.
They're trying to cover up. He has a lot of negative associations. His chief of staff is a real hoodlum. I think people are going to take a second look at him, and I think Jay Collins will be a strong candidate. I'm not sure who's going to win, but Paul Renner is totally into as a spoiler. And then there's a 4th guy who's a good guy. He's around 30 years old. James Fishback. He runs he's not a politician. He runs an investment fund. He's a good guy, but he doesn't have any real name recognition. He'll be a good addition to the.
Well, he was on Tucker, and that's the wailing and gnashing of teeth I heard after Tucker, because I was with a bunch of journalists with Hegseth for the last few days, and that name came up. We can't vote for this guy. So
he's a good guy, but he really has very little hope. I'm glad he's in the campaign. He'll raise a lot of good issues. We may have him come down and talk to us if we get a chance at the Election Integrity Brigade, because he'll be available, So it's good.
Yeah.
He'll raise issues. I'm a big supporter of primaries.
Yes.
Especially in the Republican Party. There's a movement in the Republican. Well, there's a movement in the Republican Party by the establishment to expel from duly elected positions in the party MAGA and grassroots conservative candidates, or not just candidates, office holders. This started with Manatee County, where the Republican Party of Florida just dismissed the entire board because they had been a bunch of MAGA supporters have been elected. The real issue in a lot of these counties is development. Yes. The RPOF up in Tallahassee is totally in the pocket of the big developers. The locals, and these are middle-class people, they don't want all this out-of-control development, and that's the issue. And the RPOF expelled the entire board of the Manatee County, and now they're going and doing it in many other places. They did it in Brevard County. We're working with Kathy Chamberlain. She's going to be talking to Election Integrity Brigade probably next in February. And it's a real battle within the Republican Party of Florida between the rhino establishment and the grassroots MAGA conservatives. And the thing about the rhinos and MAGA is this is a battle that's been going on since my first presidential election in 1976, when it was Reagan challenged Ford. And I remember in college, and I'm still friends with, he and I both went to law school together as well. And he was a big Ford supporter in 1976. And it's the same problem. The GOP establishment doesn't like the grassroots conservatives, but can't win without them.
And they are extremely tyrannical in dealing with them. I mean, there's no rule of law in the party anymore. There's no process. It's just right makes right. You know, might makes right. So I guess that's it. Well, tell us about the Election Integrity Brigade, please.
Well, we're reorganizing for this year. We've lost several members of our leadership, but we have a good new board. We have a great webmaster, Graham Wood. He's doing a great job. He's gonna tell us what he's up to, and we're gonna have some good guests every monthly meeting. This is a very important. It's funny because all around the country, election integrity is becoming recognized as a real issue. And I think, for example, even the Maduro capture, we're hoping that he will have something to say about all the Smartmatic and Dominion machines that came out of Venezuela. You have to realize that President Hugo Chavez was properly elected in December of 1998. That was the last fair and free election in Venezuela. Every election since then has been stolen, including a recall election of Chavez in 2004, where the Carter Center from Georgia had people there and they swallowed the whistle. They kept their mouth shut, and the W administration didn't say anything because they didn't want to create trouble. They had a big election coming up, and every election has been sold, including the one in July of 2024. So that's more than 20 years of stealing elections, and some of that has come to the U.S., and that's why we're standing up for election integrity. The other point we're making is vote by mail is totally out of control, and it's funny because executive orders and other comments from Trump are totally against vote by mail. But in Florida, the establishment is promoting vote by mail. The supervisor of elections of Miami-Dade County is a big supporter of vote by mail. And when I called her on it, she said, "Oh, Ed, you don't know how elections are run." Well, maybe not the way she's been running them, but so we're continuing with those fights. The mayor of Coral Gables has recently proposed that all the voting in Coral Gables be done by mail. So it's like California, Oregon, where there's no in-person voting. So we have a lot of work to do here. We continue to have monthly meetings on the third Saturday of each month. We meet at Longhorn Steakhouse in Doral, Florida, and everyone is welcome to attend.
Ed, thank you so much. We'll see you next time, and be in touch soon in Miami. Take care.
You bet. Keep in touch.
Right. Take
Bye-bye.
care.